Hey, what's up? MJ on. You got me? I'll wait a couple minutes to allow people. You're live. We're building an audience for you. Hey, what's up? We got two on. 1, 2. Kev, what's up? How are you? Kev Sampson joined. Hi, Kev. You okay? Ooh. Just going to give it a minute or two to allow 1 or 2 others to join. Joe says hi. Hi, Joe. What's up? Dave. I used to clean Dave's boots back at Notts County. Great guy. Colette, how are you? Sarah, I'm good. Yourself, you okay? Sam Bayliss. James, what's up? Rachel, hey MJ, how are you? Hey Rich, how are you? Okay, so let's get this show on the road. So as usual, Case, how are you? Okay? As usual, as you all know, on a Sunday night about 9:30, I usually go live. It's not something that I wanted to do. I was asked to do it about, say, 4 or 5 weeks ago. And it's been okay. It's been a relative success with the topics that we have spoke about. There's been a lot of interaction after, which I hope never just stops in this being a debate. It's important that whatever we talk about, hopefully it is the catalyst for certain things to happen in the community or in homes or wherever it may be. And I know that I've had lots of personal conversations. I've been invited to 1 or 2 places. I think this week I am going to go to see an addiction place down in Birmingham. Hi Helen, how are you? My old mucker. So I'm going to go see an addiction place down in Birmingham. And this isn't me got all the answers by no long shot. This is just a opportunity for us to debate, talk about situations that are affecting people in every walk of life. And this week's is about addiction. Now, what is addiction? There's lots of means and thoughts and sayings about it. The one that I came up with, which kind of hit home more, was addiction is when a human being is reliant on something that may or may not be in the best interest of that individual. This may cause problems instantly or over a period of time. So an addiction is when somebody is reliant on something, usually a substance of some sort, maybe food, maybe an activity that they crave. Now, this may be something that is okay, that they deem okay, but actually has long-term effects, maybe short-term effects that are detrimental to that person. And let's be honest, there's all forms of addiction. That might be addiction to chocolate, that might be addiction to sweets, that might be addiction to spending, shopping. But I wanted to hit, Tony, you're back. Need to catch up with you. But I wanted to talk about 3 or 4 key areas of addiction. These parts of addiction are ruining lives in a big way, and forming a lot of what we see in deaths, suicide, which has gone up alarming over the last few years, especially in youngsters. I wanted to speak about these addictions in particular: sex, alcohol, drugs, and just touching on the food one. So what is an addiction? Addiction, like I said, is when a human being is craving for something that potentially might do them damage long term or short term. At the time it feels good, but these things are a short term fix. Quite interestingly, I was speaking to James Jobbins. Says, I have an addiction, I am currently getting help. First part is admitting the addiction. Perfect. Hi Mark. So that was something I was definitely going to mention, that nobody can turn your life around unless you yourself actually put your hand up and say, I need help. We can do all sorts of things. Kevin's on about he was addicted through eating, through managing a youth. On a personal, I was addicted to eating through managing a youth football team. I am learning the benefit of healthy eating. What a wonderful message that is. So somebody found through managing a football team, there was some vice, there was something that actually satisfied his need for eating. I forgot where I was. I was going to say, yes. So some people are addicted, but the first point of call is having to admit to the addiction. If you don't admit to the addiction, then how do you need help? How will you get help? Now, somebody can force you as much as they want to, but ultimately, the will to change rests with you. There must be a time in your life when you put your hand up and say, enough's enough. I need to turn my life around for whatever purpose that may be. And that's where it starts, really. This topic tonight is, we've explained what addiction is. We explained what the main addictions are. But how do we actually turn that boat round? And it might sound easy. And listen, I don't want to be a hypocrite here because, well, I'm not an hypocrite because I have suffered a certain addiction. Never drugs, never alcohol, probably sex at a young age. But there was reasons for that. Hi, Jay Gritty, reaching out to people. Sam, how are you? And there's lots of reasons for addiction. It might be it's peer pressure. So we look at a lot of youngsters nowadays who are under severe peer pressure like it's never been before, whether it's, teeny gangs or groups of boys or social media. And I always hear this one from young people. Oh, well, they're all doing it. So that means I must be getting left out. They're all doing it, so I should join in. Oh, I'm going to try it just the once. Well, you only live once. I'm young, free and single. But this kind of flippant and token gesture about your well-being, well, they're all doing it. Well, that doesn't mean to say that what they all doing is the right thing. It might be something that isn't good for you. So what if they're all taking cocaine? Does that mean you must try it? What if, they say, oh, just try it just the once? Well, just the once might mean that you get hooked on it. So you have to use wisdom and knowledge and strength to be able to turn around and say, well, that might not be the best thing for me. And that might be under severe peer pressure from certain friends and certain cliques who are trying to push you into doing something that you may not want to do. But the very fact that you actually then give up and then give in to their demands might lead you on a road to certain disaster. Well, you only live once, I'm going to try it, I'm going to sleep with this guy, you only live once, I'm going to sleep with this girl, they're all at it. But actually, you're devaluing your very self. by accepting what everybody else accepts is just the norm. Well, it's not just the norm, because that one, while they're all doing it, that one, well, I'm just going to try it the once, might be the road that you open up to, and that leads to a long, winding road of trouble. We've all started on just the once, and it's ended up in something disastrous. I remember when I was a not so young boy who used to go out and say, well, I'll have just the one. Just the one would always turn into 10, 9, 8, whatever it was later. Just reading somebody's update there. I'll come back to you with that. You know who you are. And this is what's so incredible. It's touching when you see people who are going through things. And that's why it's important that we talk about subjects and get it out there and get it off people's chest and get it into the public domain. Interestingly enough, and whenever I talk, I try and do research and match it up with biblical words. But addiction was very low in finding stuff on there, because nobody wants to say I'm a drug addict, or I'm a porn addict, or I'm a sex addict, or I'm a food addict, alcohol addict. Nobody really wants to open that can of worms. It's not something that we feel proud to say and talk about. So it was very kind of low in regards information out there about addiction. But even just, being on here for the last 5-10 minutes, there's numerous people who are struggling with some form of addiction, who have been through so much. And we'll come on to the reasons for the addiction, because sometimes there's some harrowing stories that cause people to be addicts. So the reasons for addictions, let's get back to this. I'm trying to stay online here. Is sometimes you see a family member doing a certain activity, and a young person is exposed to seeing this on a regular basis. Now that might be pornography through the TV. That might be the parents who watch porn. The youngster then has access to certain things that they shouldn't do. And you start to find that the recycle of life continues. This is not the norm, but some people actually, if this is what they see on an everyday basis at home, then they'll obviously believe it's the norm. Some it's to fit in and feel part of a clique, to be accepted, to be cool, to be respected, to feel wanted, to yearn for something. If a human being needs are not being met, and what I mean by that is, if a human being wants to feel loved, wants to feel valued, wants to feel respected, wants to feel nurtured, wants to feel some sense of belonging, and doesn't get those core ingredients at home, then they might search for that in something else. They may want to get rid of that feeling of devalued by putting themselves into something that takes them far away from the pain that actually they feel. So it's important that at home, and it goes back to love again, that we meet out love at home, that you make sure that your nearest and dearest, your loved ones, are being fed the core ingredients that a human being needs. And those core ingredients are love, are patience, are understanding, are value, are respect, treating people with integrity. I don't care whether that's a 2-year-old, I don't care whether that's somebody what's 45 years old. I think that those strong values are the foundations of growing up young people in the right and proper way. Now, there is no guarantees. Obviously, that will help. There's no book that says this is the strategy here, but surely a child would have a better opportunity in existence in this tough world that we are now living in, to survive, rather than a child that has come through with no love, no patience, no understanding, deprived, never nurtured, never shown any form of guidance or wisdom. I'd rather to choose the other way, and I'm sure that would help a lot of youngsters feel a lot more grounded and a lot more stronger as a young person coming into this tough world that we also live in. James says you can show other people struggling that you can help as well. Yes, you can. And that's a real good point, because sometimes just a smile, you know, if you ever sit on a train and you've got an hour journey, and I used to be the worst one at it, but now I try and strike up conversation, because the very people that you actually sitting across the table from might actually be experiencing so many difficulties in their life that all they may need is somebody just to do this. Morning, good afternoon. That might strike over the conversation over an hour, that you might be able to help intercept somebody that is going through such a tough time. And again, that's just showing a form of friendship, a form of, you know, of love to a fellow human being, that we don't have to sit there or just a face that is showing that actually it's cool to say good morning. And so what if they don't say good morning? You don't lose no face. But there's so many people struggling that sometimes a smile in itself is a gateway for somebody just to say, good morning, how are you? And you've got a conversation where you can actually start to talk. And some people are just waiting, and I've tried it myself, are just waiting for the opportunity for somebody to go, do you know what? You know, how are you? Wow, I tell you what, it's not looking good. And that's when you start to be able to help people. Okay, so we spoke about peer pressure, seeing your family doing it to fit in. Sometimes a breakup can actually cause addictions. So that might be a breakup in the home, a breakup as a marriage, partners, and somebody being unfaithful, or something tragic. You know, a woman lost a child, or, you know, a dad, a couple. It can be something as trivial, not as trivial, but as serious as that could actually tip somebody the other way. So we need to show understanding when people are going through addictions, because I believe that it's not just somebody what's just going, oh, I wanted to try it and get off me. There is an element of that, of course. But I think majority of addictions, there's a real underlying factor here. And I think that's what you did to me in the captain's big smile, Tony. That's what we do. We smile and we be nice people and try to just go about our business in a human way. But the biggest reason I feel for addiction is there might be issues that have happened in the home, in your life, that you've not yet come to terms with. And to mask over those issues, and that might be a partner leaving you, that might be something happened in your childhood, that might be feeling unloved in your childhood. There's so many issues that have happened in the course of your life that you try and find a coping mechanism to try and escape it. But these coping mechanisms are short-lived, real short-lived. So when somebody's getting off the tree, you have to understand that somebody's constantly getting off the tree. There's an issue here. It's not a one-off where somebody's had a good, and is actually, this person's drinking on a regular basis and is dependent on it. There's a difference, I think. And I wouldn't condone somebody going out now, and I couldn't. But when somebody's doing it on a regular basis, there's an actual issue with that. Somebody's actually going through some life problems, a split, a marriage is over, something from the childhood, and instead of us judging that person, we actually need to bring that person closer to us and get to the fundamental reason as to what is really going on. So addictions damage you short term and also long term. So if we look at sex, listen, we all like sex. Let's be blatantly honest here. But I think that having sex with lots of partners is not the cool thing to do. It really isn't. There's so many issues around having sex with different partners. You're talking about diseases, you're talking about low esteem from an individual, you're talking about unwanted pregnancies. There's also a transfusion of bodily fluids. And for a woman to lay down with a man, a woman has to do something that is the most precious thing that a woman has. She has to allow someone to enter her body. Now that shouldn't be just something that is, hi Simone, cause you okay? That shouldn't be something that is frowned upon or is something that is taken lightly. That's spiritual, that is. That is you allowing, accepting that two now become one. So there's a transfusion of bodily fluids, not just semen, but also blood. There's lots of things happening. Now, when that person then decides to leave, I'm a spiritual person. So I believe there's some kind of spiritual connection that two people who have collided and have come together now have. Now, if you don't know that person or know enough about that person, then what kind of person are you allowing inside of your body? I mean, this is real talk. Addiction is a word people avoid saying they run a mile. And that's why, James, it's deep, James. Addiction is a word people avoid saying they run a mile when they hear that word. People do. James, I'm telling you, there was next to nothing on the internet about it. I searched and searched and couldn't find anything. So having sex is sacred. That's why God said sex is for marriage. Now I know people don't want to hear that, because the whole world is saying, you look at This Is Towie and you look at what's out there in the media and what they portray in the music. But sex is a sacred thing. Now, am I going to be a hypocrite and say, well, because you're married, that's what you see? No. I now know better. And I wish I was educated enough to have behaved in a certain way 15, 20 years ago, but I didn't know any better, because what these saw became part of what I was about. So what are other people seeing and hearing around you? What is your behaviour showing? Are you showing them the correct way, the correct way? Are you speaking about how you need to honour a woman, how a woman is how we came into being, how a woman is a precious human being, how a woman should be respected? These kind of talks will prevent people later on in life becoming addicted, because then they will start to respect themselves and won't feel in a way that years later, after they've given themselves to so many people, they actually suffer from low esteem and feel not quite valued as a person. And that leads into other kinds of addiction. You look at pornographic stuff, what people read. You're right, Vaughan, there won't be anything wrote about this because it's a taboo subject. Everyone has an addiction of some sort. Does everybody have an addiction of some sort? I think you're right, but I think there's damaging addictions. And I mean severely damaging addictions, which are damaging people's homes, people's lives. There's some real intense addictions. People can say, I'm addicted to football. Okay, that's fine. Maybe you play sport too much. But it's a difference when you're talking about an addiction, which is drugs, which now you're into damaging people's lives. And that's why I think this has to be spoken about. You look at alcohol, people are dying from bodily abuse. Now, I've never been an alcoholic, but I understand from speaking to people that have been, it's like they hallucinate, they think things are happening, they have loss of memories, they're lying to cover up certain issues, their self-worth is sort of gone under. And also children seeing, loved ones who are, can't get out of bed, who's smelling of drink driving, and spending monies on alcohol. There's so many issues that this has. A lot of people are homeless, lost their homes because of an addiction to drink. It's serious. The effects on the body, what drink has. Just have to look at two footballing legends. I mentioned football, Paul Gascoigne, George Best. This is a serious topic that nobody really seems to drive home. But there's reasons why. There has to be a reason why that so many people are suffering from addictions. There's drugs as well, and this again starts going to prostitution. So people will sell their bodies to make money so that they can get their fix for the day. They will do all sorts of things just so that they can get what they need for the day. Now, imagine when that person does that for a period of 10 years. What must the mindset of somebody who's sold their body be, who's had hundreds of men or women doing certain degrading stuff just so that they can get monies to buy what they need to for their fix? How do you feel in the next 10, 15 years? So when we talk about issues of suicide, this is, it's massive. You've got people doing custodial sentences because of drugs, because they are literally hooked on drugs. And there's a deterioration over a certain amount of time. There's unusual body behaviours. And anything could happen. Anything could happen to somebody that is on drugs. Now, what is that doing to you yourself inside as an alcoholic, as a druggie? Somebody, what is damaging your insides? And how does that reflect when you see the people who actually love you watching you do something and they can't do nothing about it? It's heartbreaking. Sean said he's feeling bad because he's sat there watching, he's listening to this with a can. Listen, and I'll be honest with you, I don't mind having a drink, but the key word for me is moderation. Nobody's saying you can't have a drink, but I think the key word is definitely moderation. Once you are not in control, then you're at the helm of somebody else or something. A lot of crimes are done when people are drinking. So many people are now in prison because of the back of what they've done on a Saturday night on the binge. They wake up the Sunday morning, don't know what they've done, but they're banged up in the jail cell. So the issues of being in control, even more so for a woman nowadays, with all these stuff of the rape, drugs and stuff like this, you need to be in control, 100%. So the question would be for me is, what's your life out there? What is your thing that you are battling with out there today? James said, I read an article today about a 13-year-old boy hanging himself over bullying. He didn't ask for help or telling someone. And this, James, this is why this is imperative that people forward this, paste this, send it. And it's not about me. If you've got somebody else what's talking about this, it's real life issues. People are dying. People are losing homes. People are committing suicide. People are stuck through a certain addiction. It's real talk. So my question would be, is what is your Goliath out there? What is it that you seem to look at, as David looked at and said, I can't defeat that. He didn't look at it. He said he was going to defeat it. But others were saying you would never defeat that big giant. What is your Goliath out there? I believe that the way to beat these issues is to confront them. You've got to confront whatever demons you face, whether that's something from your childhood, whether that is something that is happening right now. I think the only way is to confront it. You got to meet it head on. Because what we sometimes do, Colette says, I was bullied, that's where my self-harming came from, which was cutting my arm. Looking myself up, but then I got a doctor called in from there. I've looked forward, which is making me stronger and better. Colette, God bless you. But you've made a great point, Colette, is that you went and got somebody, and then I got a doctor called in. Somebody came to your aid and somebody was there to assist. And I think that's such an important thing, that somebody needs to be there to make you accountable or hold your hand or support. And this is where I think so many dynamics within our community can help, whether that's somebody that's a loved one, whether that's a church what's reaching out to accept people who are homeless, who have addictions, to support them, to guide them, to not be judgmental. We can't be judgmental. It says in the Bible that he who is without sin cast the first stone. I'm in no position to judge anybody, and I would never judge anybody. Whatever addiction you have, whether that's 24/7 watching porn, whether that's you've had 100 partners, whether that's you drink 20, I'm not in no position to judge anybody. But what we need to do is support one another. And it's important that churches support, because that's part of what they should be doing. It's important that aunties and uncles and dads and whoever it may be don't turn your back on people, children, family members, friends that actually need support. Because if you turn your back, then you might be looking at something a bit more difficult. So I believe that the way is to confront your demons and don't cover it with a plaster. A plaster's only temporary, but when you peel it off, is the wound still fresh? Is it still open? And that's why some clinics are great. And listen, I'm not going to hit out on clinics. I think they do a great job. But do they get to the real fundamental reason as to why? Is it that conversation you need to have with somebody that has done something to you in your past that keeps coming up, that you want to mask over? Sometimes all people with addiction need is someone to talk to, and that's great. Tony says, I work for funeral directors now. It puts things into perspective, because you must see people passing at an alarming rate. I believe if you can confer with a trusted someone, it can help. Someone who's trusted. Who do you trust? Who could be somebody that you can tap into? Who could it be who you can lean on? Who could it be that somebody's accountable for you to check and make sure you're okay on a regular basis? Somebody that you can pick the phone up without them being judgmental and saying, do you know what? I slept with this person again. Do you know what? I took this substance last night. Do you know what? I'm drunk and I need help. Do you know what? Without somebody saying, stuff you and putting the phone down. Who could be that person that can help and support and offer certain wisdom? So for me, there's it's like, it's a cut. And sometimes a cut happens. And sometimes if you don't get the right healing for it, years later, it will reopen. It's not healed right. And sometimes with the cut, with the initial wound, because it's quite sharp, we don't really want to put the correct treatment on it, because it might sting, it might hurt a little bit. So what we do, we go for another method of trying to cover up the wound, only to find out 6 months down the later, I still need to address the problem. So what I'm saying is that whatever wound you have, and it's never too late to address a wound, but you need to apply the right kind of treatment to make sure this wound is healed for the rest of your life. And from a spiritual side, I believe the Word of God can support you in every way possible. That's what it's done for me. I would never say that I was a alcoholic, or I did drink too much at times. I'd never say that I was drugs. But I had a severe problem with women as a young man. And sometimes we have got to take accountability for ourselves, of our own actions. And I did, mess around and sleep around as a young person, something that I'm not particularly proud of. But I think it's only through being open and honest, it's only through now finding somebody who's now my wife, it's only through having 3 boys that actually you've got to get your house in order. And my faith's played an absolute pivotal part of that. Without God, I don't know. But what I would say is that your children, for me, is a real turning point. Because what I went through, and this might be what somebody else is going through, and other issues, whatever it is, you don't want that for your nearest and dearest. You can't want that. But the only way you can minister and speak from a position of power to your children is to live that life, so that they can turn to you for help and guidance, because they are watching and seeing everything you do. 100%. So there's reasons why I believe that you yourself have a pivotal part to play, whether you've been caught in whatever addiction it is, to turn around the life of your very self, so that you can speak, you can help people in and around you, but you can also be there for your children when they're coming through, because you've gone through certain incidents, but you've turned your life around, because your children mean so much to you that you don't want them to see you in that particular way. You don't want them to think that's how life is. You don't want them to think that that's the norm. You don't want them to think that, you know what, this is my environment. This is what I grew up in. This is all I know. And if all they know is drugs, then guess what might happen to them later? They're caught up in a drug-style environment. If all they know is sex, daddy's sleeping around, got 8 and 9 women on the go, mum's doing other things, allowed to watch certain movies that they shouldn't be allowed, then what kind of environment are we fostering for those young ones? And again, these are all parts of addiction, because they start to want something, and that something is what they've been used to, and it might not be the right thing, but once they fall into that trap of alcohol, drugs, sex, you've got a rough idea where they're going. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with enjoying sex. If you're going to have sex, just make sure you have it with the person that you love, the person that you're going to be with. Not every Tom, Dick, Harry, not when you're 12, 13, 14, 15. because you don't know about life yet. There's nothing wrong with having a drink. And I know this will probably fall on deaf ears, because I see the drink lifestyle every Friday, Saturday night. But every Friday, Saturday night, I worry, you pray. If you think I'm being stupid, go let your 18, 19-year-old go into town and see if you don't worry. Go let your 20-year-old daughter walk through town and see if you don't worry. So we've got to try and educate our children and show love to our children that this might not be the best way for you to attract partner A or B. So there's nothing wrong with having a drink. There's nothing wrong with enjoying sex. But just remember that sex is sacred. It's something that was given to us from God for one person. There's nothing wrong with having a drink. But make sure the drink don't control you. Gary says, a lot of my friends did drugs, and I have been offered drugs before when I have been out on the town and in certain clubs, but I've always turned them down. Rachel says, my ex was an alcoholic. It turned out into a relationship, into a physical, mental, abusive one for 12 years. It was when my eldest called the police when he had his hands around my throat. This was my wake-up call. And sadly, Rach, that is what I've been hearing as I mentioned this subject, that a lot of people have been in abusive relationships. The ex was an alcoholic, but why was he alcoholic? There's a reason. There's a fundamental reason. And listen, like I said before, I don't believe everybody has a reason. Some people just want to get drunk for getting drunk. Some people just want to get high for getting high. But when that's repetitive, when that's you can't do without it, then there's, hold on, something's not quite right here. And that's where certain investigation, and that might be where a conversation with somebody is held, where you want to ask the question, and, you know, is everything okay? You know, I'm a little bit concerned. Don't judge. Don't, you know, throw people. And I know yours, listen, there's no way that if somebody's got your hands around someone's throat, that's the time to have a conversation. That's gone too far, way too far. There's no need for that kind of abusive relationship. Again, that's just not on. But before it gets to that point, if you can speak and find out what might be happening in that person's mind, that might be something that could help somebody in their life. Thanks, Sean. That's really kind of you. So I hope this has been helpful. Life after addiction is good. Life after addiction is good. Like I said to you, I was never an addict. But some people drink because it makes them feel better. It's not okay for them to feel better and causing pain to others. Great thoughts and discussion tonight. Thanks, Kev. Life's good when you're not an addict. You're not addicted. Nothing's got control of you. Nothing should have control over you. You are a free spirit. You know, we're here for only a shorter period of time. Time's ticking away. The years, I can't believe. The football season finished. I'm going to say football. The football season finished a couple of months ago. Already it's back started. We're staring down the barrel of Christmas already. That means 1 year's nearly gone again. So time's flying. We don't have no time for this kind of foolishness. All we need to try and do is to help educate those what we leave behind and show them love. But if you are really stuck in some form of addiction, and there's reasons for it, then I would encourage you to try and speak with somebody who who you can really trust and open up to? Is there a real pressing issue? What's on your heart? What's griping you? What wakes you up at night? What stops you from enjoying life? Can you speak to the person, as to why did they do this or that, or didn't do this or that? Because it's only through real healing that you can move forward. You can't move forward if something keeps pulling you back. And at times, the wound might sting. It might be, ouch, you might cry because the wound's fresh. But once that wound heals, once that wound binds together in the right and proper way, it's only then can you start to move forward. And if it's not an issue of something in your past, then I would encourage you, with this spiritual nature that I have, to just do the right thing. Is it the right thing to buy cocaine? No. If it's the right thing to go out and get us, no. Is it the right thing to go see this person A Monday night, person B Tuesday night? No. So I would encourage you to do the right thing, because only through doing the right thing do you actually have self gratification about one's behavior, and you start to feel good about yourself. Once you start to feel good about yourself, then there's nothing that can hold you back. But once you start doing the wrong things about it, you try to cover it up, you want to erase that memory, and people will take certain substances to erase that, or find something to fill that gap. So what I'd advise you to seek somebody who's really trustworthy. Go and get help, whether that's counselling or whatever that may be. But long term, go and find out what the real core reason will be, and then go get yourself connected to somebody, a church, a friend, somebody that can really help guide you and pull you through. Because there's going to be moments when you're going to want to look back. You're going to want to look back. But if you can keep going, you'll get further and further and further and further away from the problem that keeps pulling you back. And with the help of others, when you feel like looking back, others will be there to help pull you through as well. And it's only through that we can start to mold the next generation, and then you can start to help others in and around you. And no matter where you are in your life, whether you are stuck with addictions, it's never too late. Whether you never had addiction, I pray that you never go there. And for the youngsters, I just hope that this has been something that is been educational for you and will help you in some way, shape or form. So I just pray that everybody's been blessed by the word that has been brought tonight. I pray that you have a fantastic week, that you live without any restraints upon your life, that you enjoy this life that we've been given. And as always, show love. That's the best way to beat any addiction. So tomorrow morning, I will be in Cardiff, and I will be speaking and showing love. Morning, everyone. And no matter how life gets you, you've got to always remain positive and upbeat, because every morning there's a new dawn. The sunshine comes out, and it's a new day. So God bless you all. I hope that you've been helped with this word this Sunday. It's just been under an hour, which has been great, and some great topics, some great debate, and I think we should keep this moving. Anybody what can help with these issues, I ask that you help. Anybody that, and I'm going to an organisation down in Birmingham to see some people who are stuck with addiction. So as always, love you all. Have a great week, be safe, and know that God loves you. Take care.